Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is Chris and welcome to LinuxTechGeek. So in today's video, I am going to show you guys how to install Gentoo Linux with SystemD. Now, I know I have plenty of videos here on the channel about how to install Gentoo Linux, but I've never made a video going over SystemD. We've always just used OpenRC. So if you're new to the channel and you just want to install Gentoo Linux, then go ahead and just watch the OpenRC version, okay? You can watch my prior videos and they're still relevant and everything. But if you are interested in the SystemD type of stuff, then this video might be for you. Not only are we going to be installing Gentoo using SystemD, but we're also going to be installing a BTRFS file system, and I'm going to show you guys how to set up subvolumes. Now, I know that some of you guys are, you've maybe you've installed Fedora or Debian or, you know, those other distros that have the Calamares installer, you know, the graphical install, and you've installed BTRFS before. But some of you guys may have never set up subvolumes manually. So if you're interested just in the BTRFS type of stuff, I'm going to leave chapters down below. That way you can quickly just see that type of stuff. And for those of you that are watching this video and you're interested in the SystemD side of things, I recommend just watching the entire video. All right. Now, before we get started, I do want to say that I will be installing this in a virtual machine. I don't have a capture card. Okay, I can't install on bare metal and capture it at the same time. In fact, I don't even have two computers. I just got one. So that's why we're going to be using a virtual machine. But all of the commands that we input in the terminal will apply to bare metal. The only difference will be maybe what hard drive you're using. Okay, and I'll kind of cover that as we go through the install. Now, for this install, I will not be going over how to install a display manager. I'm not going to be going over how to install Xorg or X11 or you know, or Wayland or any of that, you know, the compositor side of things. Okay, this is just going to be how to install Gentoo Linux using SystemD and the BTRFS file system. That's all it's going to be. Okay, and I'll try to kind of cut the video a little short. This is going to be a long video, just like my other Gentoo video, but hopefully I can kind of trim it down a little bit in post-production. All right, with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump over to the desktop and let's begin. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to download the ISO from the Gentoo website. Okay, so let's pull up Firefox, gentoo.org. We're going to go to downloads here, and then we are going to pick the live GUI USB image. Now, for this purpose, I mean, for this video, I will be using the live GUI. That way I can kind of copy and paste some of the commands to cut down on the video length. But be aware that sometimes the live GUI version of the install is a little behind the minimum installation CD. Okay, now as you can tell right here, and you can look at the dates, the dates match. If you are going to use the live GUI USB image, make sure that the date matches the minimal installation CD date. Okay, because oftentimes what happens is the minimum installation CD, it gets updated, and then a week later the live GUI gets updated. Okay, so just be aware of that sometimes that does happen, and that the minimum installation CD typically is the more updated ISO. All right, so let's go ahead and grab the live GUI here. And I may need to grab this from a mirror because it looks like it's crawling here. Yeah, it is going awfully slow. So let me find a mirror. North America, we'll do US. We'll just do Georgia Tech. It doesn't matter where we get it. Anything could be better than what we was getting a minute ago. I think it's releases actually. AMD 64 auto builds, and then we'll just do current lab GUI AMD 64 desktop lab. I'm looking for lab GUI here. They make this thing almost impossible to read. Right here, lab GUI. Okay, that is a lot better speeds. I do apologize. Trying to get this done as quickly as possible here. So this file size is pretty big. I'll go ahead and pause the video while this is downloading, and then we'll set up Virt-Manager. All right, so that is pretty much done. We can close out of Firefox here because we won't need it. Pull up some Virt-Manager here. Let's make a new virtual machine. Go to local. Let's go ahead and browse. We can do local lab GUI. Make sure that's AMD 64. It is. We're going to type in Gentoo here. For some reason, Virt-Manager doesn't pick it up that it's Gentoo. Now, for memory, I'm giving it 20 gigabytes of memory. I have 32 gigabytes on the system. The reason I'm going to give it 20 gigs is because I want this to go as fast as possible. And then CPUs, I'm going to give it 18 or 18 cores. I have a 24 core system here, so I can give it 18. Actually, I'm just going to give it 16. I'll give it 16. 16. Now, I'm going to give it a pretty big hard drive, simply because we're going to be using this in more than one project. So I'm going to go ahead and just give it 60 gigs. And then we're going to name this Gentoo Virt. We'll call it SystemD. All right, and then we want to do a custom configuration. Chipset. I'll change that, and then we'll go to UEFI. We'll hit apply. We are going to be doing UEFI simply because most of you guys run UEFI, and I wanted to kind of match bare metal as much as possible. And then for SATA, we're gonna change our Virt IO disk. We're gonna change this to SATA as well. And then for video, I like to use the Virt IO driver. And then we just begin installation. Is it meh? I wonder if it's griping at me because I changed the chipset there. Okay. Yep, it was. That's why I was griping. I'm also aware that some of you guys have mentioned to me in the past that my font size is incredibly small. I do apologize about that, guys. My font size are not actually that small. What's going on is I run a 2K monitor, okay? And I film these videos in 2K. So what tends to happen is it's not my font sizes are small, it's that my monitor resolution is so big, it looks small. So what I'm going to do is anytime I'm typing in the command line or anything like that, I'm going to try to increase the font size as much as possible. That way, for you guys that are maybe watching this on a cell phone or, you know, or in a browser or anything, or maybe you're watching it on your TV, but you're kind of far away from your TV, you guys can see the commands as well. I'm trying to help you guys out a little bit with that, because I am aware of it, and I do apologize. It's something that I don't always think about when making these videos. So we can skip all that crap. Okay, I do want to set the resolution. Set the default res here. I can probably set this to 1080p, and that might help you guys out too. 1920 by 1080. Hit apply. We'll keep it. Okay. Now, we are in KDE. Now, the reason I'm doing this in the graphical environment, like I said, is so I can copy and paste. Okay. Normally, when I install Gentoo, I just use the minimal CD, and I just kind of follow the handbook. What is this browser? I've never used that. Falcon? We got some Firefox. All right. So let's go ahead and pull up the handbook here. So we'll do downloads, Gentoo handbook. Okay, and we'll do the AMD 64 on the handbook. And then we will do configuring the net. No, let's just go to configuring the disk, because we already know the network is running. However, I'm going to show you guys how to issue. No, I think it's sudo issue. Sudo issue. Yep. Okay. Now that we have root, let's make sure everything looks good. Okay. So hopefully you guys can read this, this font size. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to test to make sure that the network is working properly. Now, I know just because we just put up gentoo.org that the network is working properly, but if you was doing this in the minimum ISO, you could just ping google.com, and if you get something that returns MS there, then you would know that your network is working. You can also type in ifconfig, and you can look at your network stuff right there to find out if it's picking up your network card or not. So the first thing that we need to actually do, though, is we need to prepare the disk. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 3 separate partitions. Okay, so we're going to have a boot partition. Okay, we need a separate boot partition with when we're dealing with UEFI. We're also going to have a swap partition. Now, we really don't need a swap partition, but probably going to use one anyway. And we're going to have a root partition, okay? Normally, what I would do also is I would have a separate home partition, but because we're setting up BTRFS and we're going to be setting up Subvolumes, we really don't need to have a separate partition for home, okay? Because the Subvolume stuff will handle that for us, okay? So the way we do this, we can just type in cfdisk. That well, first we need to figure out our hard drive, so we can type in lsbok, and now we can see that SDA is our disk, okay? So we can do cfdisk dev SDA, and we can select GPT. Now, if we're using UEFI, we have to do a GPT partition scheme or a partition layout. If you're using the old BIOS or MBR boot process, then you can use DOS. So GPT. Okay, we're going to do new 1G for 1 gig. I like to give boot just a gig. Ain't gonna hurt nothing. We're gonna give swap 8 gigs. We really don't need a swap, guys. Okay, you really don't need it anymore. You have so much RAM these days where you're really not gonna be using the swap, but you can make one. Okay, and then we're going to give root the 51 gigs. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to switch these types. So we go up here to SDA1. Okay, we go to type. We want to make sure this says EFI system. Okay, go down, go to type. We want Linux swap. So now you can see that SDA1 is EFI, SDA2 is Linux swap, SDA3 is Linux file system. And then we can go to write. We can go to quit. Clear. LSBLK dev SDA to verify. So we just verified it. Okay, so now we need to create our file system for our UEFI stuff, okay? And it has to be a FAT32 file system. Okay, so we can do make fs vfat capital F 32 dev SDA1. Okay, so it just needs to look like that. Now we need to make a swap. So make swap dev SDA2. So we just did that. And now we need to do our BTRFS stuff. So make fs BTRFS, and then we do dev SDA3. That's done. Now we need to turn swap on. So swap on dev SDA2. Okay. Now we need to make our folder that we're going to mount our root file system on. Okay. So we do make dir parents mount Gentoo. Okay, and now we need to mount our BTRFS file system onto the mount Gentoo folder. So mount dev SDA3 mount Gentoo. Okay, we can type in df-h to verify that it is mounted, and as you can see, it is actually mounted right there. All right. This is where the BTRFS Subvolume stuff kicks in, okay? So what you want to do is you want to type in butter. Well, first you need to make sure that you are in the home, or you need to make sure you're in the mount Gentoo directory, okay? So whatever directory that you mounted your root file system, that's the directory that you need to be in, okay? So we can do BTRFS subvolume create, okay, and then you're going to give it the @ sign. So what this is doing, this is going to create a BTRFS subvolume, okay, and the @ sign, just the @ sign, that's saying, hey, create a subvolume for root, okay, for root. So you type in that, you hit enter, and now you can see it created that subvolume, okay? But we're going to have 2 subvolumes. We're going to have one for root, and we're going to have one for home. So how do we make our home? Well, we can just hit up arrow, okay, and we can do at home. Okay, and this will create it at home. Now, we have to unmount, okay, and then we have to remount these subvolumes, Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing now. So we just created the subvolumes. Now we have to unmount them, or we have to unmount the original root file system, and we have to mount our subvolumes there instead. I hope that makes sense. This is a little confusing, but it does work. Okay, so you can do. So you need to get out of the directory. Okay, and now you need to mount Gentoo. Okay, so verify that you're not mounted into anything. Now we do mount -0. Okay, subvol or subvolume equals the @ because we're going to be mounting the subvolume root as root. Okay, so dev SDA3 mount Gentoo. Okay, so what this is saying pretty much is we're going to mount this subvolume right here, which is root. This is the file system. Okay, this is the partition, and then this is the destination of where we're going to do this. Okay, that worked. Now, the way that we mount, we have to make a directory. Okay, and mount Gentoo home, and then we have to do the same thing and mount the the home subvolume. Okay, so we can do mount or mkdir mount Gentoo boot, or mount Gentoo home. I'm sorry, mount Gentoo home. Okay, and then mount -o subvol equals at home dev SDA3, because we're only using that single partition, mount Gentoo home. Okay, it needs to look like that. Hit enter, everything is mounted. All right, and if you do df-h, you can see right here that we actually have one partition mounted, but it's mounted in kind of two different places, right? Because it's the subvolumes. All right, so we have the subvolume for root, and we have the subvolume for home. All right, now we need to go ahead and I like to make my boot directory, because we need to mount our boot file system. So we can do make directory mount Gentoo boot, and then we can mount dev SDA1, because that's our boot file system, mount Gentoo boot. Okay, and now we want to change directory into mount Gentoo. Okay, do pwd, verify it. All right, now we just need to go ahead and grab the stage 3 IS stuff. I am double checking to make sure that we've done everything correct. Unfortunately, the documentation doesn't really go over how to set up BTRFS. There's some videos here on YouTube on how to do it. There's a couple people that are pretty good with the BTRFS side of things. I actually, before making this video, I had to do some research of my own to verify that that's how it worked, and how to actually do it. So it looks like our clock is a little skewed. Go figure. So first thing that we need to do is we need to set up the date, okay? Because having we need to have a proper date. Okay, so we're gonna have to do this manually. So we're gonna do the date command. Okay, And the way that you do this is it's month, day, hour, minute, and year. Okay, so we can do date. Month is August. The date is, I don't know, let me verify the date here on my actual physical machine. The date is the 7th. Okay. The time for me is it's 8 o'clock, so which is going to be 20 in military time. And it's 20:07. I'll just say it's 20:08, because by the time I get done typing this, it will be. And then the year is 2023. And there we go. So, all right. That looks right. So the next step is going to be grabbing the stage 3 tarball. All right. Now, grabbing the stage 3, this is where the SystemD type of stuff will kind of take place, all right? Because normally what you would do if you was using OpenRC is you would just grab that stage 3 OpenRC right here. We're not going to be doing that, okay? What we're doing is going to be grabbing the stage 3 SystemD, all right? So we can grab it. And then I'm going to go ahead and move it here from right there. All right, so I just moved it over to the Mount Gentoo folder. And now what we need to do is we need to unpack it, okay? So we're going to unpack here. All right, cool. So that's all done. And now we need to configure the compile stuff. All right, so I'm going to use VI, and then we're going to do etc portage packet or make.conf. Okay, and then as a March equals native. And then we got to do make ops equals minus J. Give it 20 gigs. I'd probably do J9. It'll be fine. And then I'm also going to enable these features. If you don't know what features are, I did a video recently talking about some of the features. All right. I like to have candy. There's 2 of them. There's parallel fetch and there's parallel install, I think. Yeah. So parallel fetch. So we can do parallel fetch and then parallel install. Okay. Yeah. All right. Right, and quit that. And we got all that stuff done. So pretty much what we did is we set up some compile options for GCC, and then this make ops. What this does is it allows you to give it more threads when installing packages. And then the future stuff, watch the futures video. All right, installing the base system. All right, we don't need to do this mirror select. They recommend you do it, but you don't have to if you live in the US. But if you don't live in the US, it might be wise to do the mirror select. Okay, and we can copy and paste this. This is just going to make a directory for us. And we can copy and paste this. This is going to copy over a configuration file that we need inside of that new directory we just made. Okay, copy this. What this is copying, this is our DNS information. Without copying this, when you root into your new install, you will not have internet. And we can copy all this. And this is one of the big benefits of using a GUI because typing all this stuff out by hand kind of sucks. Okay, and there's a lot of it here. So what this is pretty much doing though is we are just mounting all of the stuff that is on the ISO. We're mounting it to this new environment that we're creating here. Okay. So that way, when we root in the new environment, we'll have, it'll have data about like, dev and run and stuff like that. It'll know about our hard drives and stuff. And then the last one right here. Okay, that's done. Now we don't really need to do this, and the reason we don't have to do this is because we're actually using the Gentoo official Gentoo live environment. If you can install Gentoo using any Linux distribution you want to, but when you do that, you do need to do this, okay? Because it's just like I believe it's because of permissions for like your temp file system and stuff like that. So just be aware of that. To root, mount Gentoo bin bash. Okay. Now we are to rooted in. We're going to source our profile here. We don't need to do this command right here. This is just going to change the prompt. We've already mounted our boot partition. We can skip that. Merge web sync. We do need to do that. And this is going to grab the portage and stuff and all of that information for us. Okay. And then we need to merge sync to update that portage that we just grabbed. Okay. Now after that gets done, we do have some news, so it is a good idea to look at the news and see if there's anything that we we need to be aware of. We don't have any recent news, so we can purge it or read all. So we'll do that, and then we'll just purge all. Can we purge all? Yep. Okay. We just purged everything, so it won't pop up anymore. The next thing that we need to do is choose the right profile. So select profile list. All right. We need to be on a SystemD profile. All right. If you're on OpenRC, make sure you're on an OpenRC profile. If you're using SystemD, make sure you're using the SystemD profile. All right. Now, I'm not going to switch this to one of the desktop, SystemD profiles. I don't care about installing a GUI, Xorg or anything like that right now. We can do that later. Okay, for right now, I want to keep this video as fast as possible. So we're just going to use the stable 17.1 SystemD. Okay, so we don't need to do anything. Now what we need to do is we need to update the system here, but before I do, I am going to set a couple use flags. Portage make.conf. Oh, VI is not installed. Well, let's install Vim real fast. I want to set a couple of default use flags. That way we don't have to reemerge world later. We can just go ahead and just do it this one time. It will save us a little time. All right. Now that Vim is installed, we can edit portage make.conf. Now you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I actually prefer to go ahead and set just a couple default use flags. So I do also we're gonna do systemd, no KDE, no Qt, no gnome, no X. I'll keep that out. Qt5, no gnome. I think that's good right now. Yep. I think that's good right now. Okay. So now we need to go ahead and emerge world. See how long this is going to take. Okay. Not really that long. It's 4 or 5 packages, which isn't bad at all, considering. See, right then, if we would have selected a desktop profile, when we got to this step, it would have pulled in X. It would have pulled in so many packages. That's why I almost prefer not to switch the profile until I'm ready to install X. All right. Well, that's done installing. Let's go to the next step. We've already kind of done some of this stuff. Don't really need to do it anymore. We can emerge this package as well. And we're also going to copy this. This is going to give us extra CPU flags. Okay. That's done. Video cards we're not really worried about because we're not doing anything with X right now. But we do need to configure this license thing. So what I like to do is just accept underscore license equals, and then I like to put a star. And what the star does, it tells the system, hey, you're going to accept all licenses. Feel free to accept all of them. Don't accept all of them. It's your choice. Okay, but they do have a pretty good list of licenses and everything. All right, so right here's our first SystemD type of stuff. Okay, so they have two. You can see right here. This is for this part right here is for everybody. And then if you're running OpenRC, you do this. Okay, if you're running SystemD, you do this. So we can copy we need to fix this right here. America, and then Louisville is my closest city. Okay, so I do that, and then I'm not sure if we have to do the time zone data thing. Not sure. I'm gonna leave it out. I don't think we do, because it says right here that we'll use the time date control command later with systemd. But we did have to do that. All right, so now we have to configure the locale. Okay, so vim etc locale gen, and then we can generate it locale gen, and eSelect locale lists, and then we'll set UTF-8 as the one that we want, and then we can source etc profile again. Okay, that part's done. That's what we just got done doing right here. Oh yeah, and I didn't do it. Environment update. Environment. I can type. Okay. So everything is done. Blah, blah, blah. We go to the kernel. I have an AMD processor, so I want this Linux firmware package. Okay. Copy and paste. If you are running if you're running AMD, you want the Linux firmware package. If you're running Intel, then the package that you want is the Intel microcode package. And this is just like firmware updates and patches and stuff for specific architecture. So there's a couple of different ways to install a kernel. My preferred method these days is just to install a distribution kernel. Okay. If you want to do a custom kernel, you can. If you want to do a hybrid of a custom along with like an automated like kind of custom kernel, is sort of like a hybrid, you can. There's 3 or 4 different kernels that you can install here on Gentoo. But I just prefer to install the binary. It works, and yeah. Now don't get confused right here with the systemd boot. Okay, we're not using gummy boot as the bootloader. Okay, this is talking about the kernel. So don't, unless you know exactly what this one is, don't install this one. Okay, you can install any kernel that you want to. SystemD is just an init system. It's not an actual bootloader. So what we do is sys kernel Gentoo kernel bin, and we can install this one, but I'm actually going to install like the newest one. So we can do var db repos Gentoo sys kernel Gentoo kernel bin. Okay, and then we can I'm just going to grab the newest kernel now. Gentoo kernel bin 6.48. Saying it's not a valid package, but it is a valid package. It's gonna gripe at me that it's in it's masked. So let's unmask it. Echo sys kernel. Actually, what we want to do is this: sys kernel, and then Gentoo kernel bin 6.4.8, and then AMD 64 portage package.use, or no, accept keywords package.accept keywords, and then Gentoo kernel bin. And then we got to do this dist kernel as well, but that's fine. Virtual dist kernel Okay. You might be asking me, why am I installing the brand new kernel? Just to go ahead and just install it, so I don't have to update it again for a while. Not only that, but some of the newer kernels coming out, they're actually pretty fast. So there's some benefits to doing it, but there's also benefits to not using the brand new kernel, because there could be some bugs and everything. So this is a virtual machine. I really don't care that much. All right. So the next step is we need to configure FSTAB or FSTAB, however you want to pronounce it. Okay, and then we can do block ID, and we can get this block ID number. Okay, now you don't have to use a block ID. It's wise to, but you don't really have to. So we need to find SDA3 in this UUID number right here. Okay, this is the number. So we can copy it, Make sure we copy right. Okay, and then we're gonna BIM etc FSTAB or FSTAB. Go to the end. No, it's just GG. Okay. No. I lost my inability to type here. I am pretty sure this is how it's supposed to be written out. I don't think you want quotes though. All right, so this is my root UUID number. Okay, so what we do is we point it towards root. Okay, we're gonna say BTRFS is our file system. Okay, and then right here there's some flags. Now I do have some show notes on how to set it up for the subvolume stuff. Let me verify those real fast. BTRFS stuff. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to say it's going to point to root. It's BTRFS. Okay, and next subvol equals at. Okay, now you can kind of stop there, and then you can do defaults like that. Okay, and then you can do 1 0, but it's also wise to put in a SSD flag if you're running an SSD hard drive. Okay, so the way you do that is you just SSD like this. Okay, it's wise to do that way. You know, like when you boot up, it knows that you have an SSD hard drive, and it can take care of, you know, like your hard drive health and all that stuff. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to copy that number again. No. Yank. Paste. Okay. And you may be thinking, why are we making two UUIDs that are the same? And that's because, remember, we have subvolumes. Okay, so that one's going to point to home. Okay, and then subvol equals at home, right? Same thing, SSD defaults, but you can have this one say 0 0 instead of 0 1. All right. Now the next thing is we need to have you can just set it up like this if you wanted to. So dev SDA1 boot vfat. This is going to be our UEFI crap. Okay, so no auto, no atime, 1 2, and then dev SDA2. Okay, none, swap, SW 0 0. So you can have something set up like that. You can mix and match. Now, if I really wanted to, I could set up the UUID numbers to match my boot and to match swap, but I'm not overly concerned. But this is the main part right here. Okay, so when you're setting up subvolumes, you need to have those subvolumes be mounted at boot time. Okay, and this is how you do that. So right quit. Okay. Next thing that we need to do is do our host name here. So we can do echo, I don't know, let's just call this Gentoo Virt etc host name. All right. So there is a couple of things going on with this with systemd. So it tells you right here that you have to use the systemd first boot command, okay, before some of these systemd commands actually work. Systemd is kind of weird, where you need to initialize like systemd before the commands become like available. So right here, that's what it's talking about right here. Is you can just echo your host name in, but later on, after you do the systemd first boot, then if you wanted to use the host name ctl command, you could do that. Next thing that we need to do is dhcpcd. All right, we need to have that installed. So we have network stuff. Yes. And remember, we're not doing any of this because we're not using OpenRC. Stereo port. Okay. So it's griping right now because okay. So I just enabled DHCP-CD. It's pretty much systemd's griping because we didn't boot with systemd. The ISO that we booted from is using OpenRC, but it will work on the boot up. Okay. Next, we need to install this package right here. And we are not going to install that package because this is for OpenRC and systemd is blocking it. Okay. So that was my fault there. It doesn't say anything, but I don't know why it's blocking it. But as long as we have DHCP working, then we'll have network. It's not that big of a deal. All right, so next thing that we need to do is we need to configure the etc configuration.net config.net. All right, and type in config. Let's get the get some network information here. It's going to be this device right here. Equals DHCP. I need to put that in quotes, I think. Yes, I do. Okay. Right and quit. Okay. Again, this is OpenRC stuff. So I don't think we need to do any of this. I could be wrong. I might be wrong, but I don't think so, because I think at RC update, I think that is OpenRC. Because I think SystemD will automatically handle bringing up our network interface and stuff. So we can do host. And then I'm just going to say right here, I'm just going to say Gentoo Virt. Okay. Root password. Okay. Root password set. So OpenRC stuff, we don't care. We're not going to do anything with OpenRC. Hardware clock, though. I do want to have hardware. I guess we don't need to edit that hardware clock either, because it's not there. That might be a... Okay, here we go. Here we go. SystemD. So it is recommended to run SystemD first boot, which will prepare various components of the system and make sure that they're configured. So we just run this command right here. SystemD first boot prompt setup machine ID. Okay. Please enter system key map name or number. I'll skip it. See what's in there. Oh, okay. This is for your, yeah. Let's just say 72 to be consistent. Yep. That's all done. Next, user should run system control to reset all installed unit files. Okay. So it just reset everything, and it created symlinks for dbus and all that stuff. It's possible to run the full preset changes, but this may reset any services. All right, we'll just run the first one. I don't want to run... I'm not going to reset everything and it reset like the network and everything like that. Okay, so this is the one I ran. And this just creates symbolic links and all of that type of stuff. All right, so next we need to install some tools. So Here we go. While a selection of logging mechanisms are presented for OpenRC-based SystemD includes a built-in logger called the SystemD service. Okay, so we don't need to install a system logger. That's pretty cool. That cuts down on a program that we need to install. We don't need to install a cron daemon either because SystemD has a built-in cron daemon. Okay. Hit yes. We don't care about all this. SSD, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'll go ahead and install bash completions. Kind of help out. Oh, shit. Okay. Time synchronizations. We'll install Crony, and then we will use SystemD to enable Crony services. Or we can use SystemD's built-in services. Oh. And then next we'll use file system tools and then install Grub, and then we're pretty much done. This has not taken that long at all. Okay. File system tools. We need BTRFS. So emerge sysfs BTRFS. Right? Is it BTRFS progs? Yes. And then we'll need DOSFS tools as well. I don't think we need it, but generally I do install this. All right. Need to install DOSFS tools. And then we're going to install this NVMe IO scheduler. Seriously, I don't think I need this, but going to anyway. All right, networking tools. Pretty sure we already installed DHCP, but we'll verify that we did. Yeah. Okay, configuring the bootloader. Now this virtual machine is just going to have one operating system on it, which is Gentoo. We don't really have to download the OS Prober program. But we do need to set this. So what this is doing is it's going to put the EFI 64 into our make.conf configuration. That way when we install Grub supports EFI. And you can see Grub will now support the EFI 64. If you are dual booting with Windows or with another operating system in general, then you will need to install a program called OS Prober, okay? And then you have to edit a file, and then you can run Grub, and then when you install Grub, it'll pick up the extra operating systems. Without that OS Prober program, Grub won't detect any extra operating systems. So because we're doing EFI, the way that we install this, right, it says when using UEFI, we have to run this command right here, okay? So as soon as Grub gets done installing here, all right, we installed Grub, and you can see that no problems or no errors reported. It's always nerve-wracking whenever I do that command, because I've had it before where I've gotten done with the installation and Grub wouldn't install, so it's a big weight off my shoulder. Okay, so this is the OS Prober program I was telling you about. If you are dual booting or anything, make sure you install this, and then edit the file that OS Prober tells you to edit. Yeah, it'll work. Okay, grub make config. Again, just have one operating system. That's pretty much what's saying right there. Is found a Linux image, found a init.rd image, OS Prober is not installed, yada yada. And I think we were done, actually. All right, let's test it out. There we go. Let's make sure we got network. Google.com. What? Oh. Got network? Yep. And that's it. Well, guys, I do want to thank you guys for watching this video. As you can see that we did get Subvolumes stuff working, and we installed Gentoo using SystemD. And honestly, it's not that hard, right? I just copied and pasted from the handbook, just like I would with OpenRC, and yeah, it just works. So if you like the content, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos. If you guys have any questions or comments or anything like that, or if you just need general help with some of the stuff that I covered in this video, leave me a comment down below. I reach out to every single one of you guys that leave me a comment, and I at least try to respond with something, okay? So till next time, you guys take care, be safe, and peace.